All right, we're live. Hey guys, Frank and Dean's on today.
What up, everyone? Good to be here.
Normally we have a little intro and we say what up and then we bring on the guest, but I'm here with Dean.
I am the intro.
You're the intro, and I had camera difficulties and now it's blurry. I don't know what's going on this morning. I think it's because we did the show at 9:30 instead of 9.
Oh, we threw it all off. The tech.
Yeah, the tech just decided, like, look, I have to fix my camera. Let's see if that works. Okay, it's clear. Man, how's it going this morning?
Good. Yeah, man. Little chilly down here in the LA headquarters, but
yeah. I always have a hoodie on, but you have a jacket on today, so
it's a lightweight nothing really, just to take the edge off.
Just to take it off. Yeah. It's good time.
We're going to talk about how technology helps pastor the church, and grow the church.
We're gonna have a good time today. It's kind of a random show. Normally have on external guests, but today we're going to talk a little bit about what Tithely's up to, I guess. Not directly the products and things like that, but just how we're focused on building tech for churches to help churches. So the title of the show is How Technology Can Help Make Disciples, 5 Must-Know Tips.
Wow.
So why that's pretty broad. But why don't we jump in? Like, Dean, why don't you give us your thoughts, like tech and church engagement, and in light of Corona and everything that's going on, it's pretty relevant.
Right. I guess obviously when the lockdown started, technology became, not as important as preaching the Bible, but second to it, as far as what a church should be really focused on. We saw a lot of our customers just not miss a beat. So if you had a good website presence, if you had some kind of streaming, utilizing YouTube and so on, even not with a lot of kind of bells and whistles technology, we know a lot. We have a lot of customers with an iPhone on a tripod and literally communicating, to their customers. So, and you can then go all the way to 3 camera shoots and control rooms and editing and all that stuff. So I think it doesn't matter really what your level of technology comfort is, as long as you had a method or a means to be able to communicate. Because if you boil down the role of the church, it falls into a few buckets, to preach the gospel, obviously. So that's communication, to care for and shepherd the people that are in the church. That requires communication. And so, when you talk about communicating the word of God and then caring for the people, both of those things have, need some kind of pipeline or conduit to get the message to the intended hearer. And so in the age of lockdown, technology is your best friend. And you and I both know there's churches that embrace technology, and there's other churches that are literally being like dragged in, kicking and screaming with technology.
Right.
Either way, you're here now, so just enjoy it.
Yeah, and then there's some that were dragged in, kicking and screaming, and can't wait for the day that they can go back to the old
to get out.
And they're like, they still can't. But I mean, you mentioned something. I remember one of the like really early interviews we did was with a pastor from Texas. And it was like a 30-person or 50-person church.
I remember that guy, yeah.
Little white church on the corner. And that show just sticks out because literally pastor was in the sanctuary with his iPhone on a tripod. Barely. He said he had to have his Wi-Fi off, and he had to drive into the church slowly because if he went too fast, he would lose his cell phone signal coverage.
I love it.
And so he had to go into the church the right way to make sure he still had coverage, and then carefully mount his phone and then stream from the sanctuary. So
hey, that's commitment, baby. And that's knowing your limitations about what you have.
Yeah. And working it out. But I mean, tech it's kind of everything. I mean, I know churches are coming back and different versions of or different phases are kind of going on all over the country and all over the world, I guess.
Well, I think what's here to stay is a blend. So if you were no tech before, or you were, high tech, what's here to stay is some technology helping you and your team communicate, care for, and keep the church moving forward in its mission. And so, even if you're reluctant, you're now in this technology world. And our big focus here is to help you in the sense that we want to make the technology as easy as possible. We want it to save you time. We want it to maximize, or dare we say, increase productivity by a factor that allows you to just kind of lean on the tech to do certain things for you, and get about the real mission of caring for people and preaching the gospel. So
yeah. Just a quick kind of jump back. I had this thought the other day. I'm like, there's been like televangelists and church on TV and even church on radio for a
50,
long time,
60, 70 years,
right? Like for a really long time. And so that's not necessarily new,
right?
but only like maybe a small sliver or certain parts of the church were doing stuff like that, or certain big names or whatever. But like now
Right.
every church basically had to go do that. They had to all go get on the internet, right? Like TV or radio, but they had to go get online and have a YouTube.
And how good is that? Like, the media TV personality preacher person that I kind of grew up with, watching to and listening, even all the way over in Australia, back in the 80s. It was this very few, kind of well-funded to get all that equipment, right? So literally now, for maybe a couple of $1,000, I can set up a full TV studio.
I mean, like if you bought the newest iPhone, it's going to cost you.
It's all there.
Right, the biggest and best one is like $1,500, right? Like literally the top end brand new iPhone.
Right. Run it through some, essentially free software, and then load it up onto free platforms to broadcast it. And you're literally touching and hitting more eyeballs than the millions of dollars equipment spent, in decades past to try and reach the world. And you still can't reach. You couldn't reach as many people as we do today with such amazing technology. So the democratization of the dissemination of information, wow, that could be a rap line, is pretty amazing, right?
How you got just 3 Ds together with
I know. I'm not a rapper, but secretly, I kind of wish I was sometimes.
Scrabble player? You're just a good Scrabble player. We got it.
Sometimes. So, you've got this broad, beautiful playing field where everybody can jump in. And so what you're seeing is you're hearing from voices that you wouldn't have ordinarily listened to, because now there's this easy pathway to push out great content when it comes to, preaching, teaching the word. And so I just think that's, beyond COVID, that's just a net positive for the kingdom. When you've got more voices going out, into the ether and beyond, it's just better to get for the world to hear the gospel from so many different angles and positions. I just think that's going to be a net benefit for the church.
Yeah. I mean, you got thousands and thousands of churches all figuring it out, even if it's as simple as iPhone to YouTube. And,
exactly.
Or getting it up on social media of some sort to their Facebook group.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about like the engagement side of all this. And by the way, there's a bunch of people watching live, so I'm seeing people from like all over the place. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Man, I see churches from California, Texas, Ohio, Kansas and Missouri, Florida, Scotland. Holy cow. Cool.
Wow. First place I ever preached when I came from Australia to the USA was in Missouri. It was Columbia, Missouri. That's a story for another day.
Oklahoma. We got them at Victorville, California. Oh, come on, High Desert. Larry, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us today. Man, so if you're on, let us know where you're from. Also, let us know like what you're doing with respect to streaming your services. Like, are you on YouTube or Facebook, or are you using Zoom to do services? Like, how are you guys connecting with folks. We've heard from a lot, but it's great to just have this live audience. We'd love to hear from you. So let's talk about kind of the engagement side of things. I think that in this COVID era, and I think it'll go on afterwards, it's this idea of like churches online. So I'm not physically with people. And I think pastors and church leaders and church members, like people struggle with this, like I'm not in person, so I can't give you a hug, because church is relationships. And so what are your thoughts on just how tech can play a role in creating engagement, and how maybe some of the things we're doing, what we're seeing,
right?
I'll open it up and we can.
So, so we've talked a little bit about getting the word out, and if we could call that using the use of technology and cameras and so on, kind of an evangelistic, outreach opportunity. Then you've got the caring, shepherding, role and calling that comes with being a pastor and overseeing a church. And so I'm going to just come out and say, even though we have a technology company and we run a technology company and we're serving tens of thousands of customers with technology will never replace the gathering together of the saints, the corporate, worship that happens when we invite the Holy Spirit into our services to, minister to us, and then the tactile, nature of church. It's just, one of the greatest things on the planet, to go and see your friends and your families and hug them and see them and see their children and, see generations of grandparents and kids and grandkids coming to the house of God. I mean, it's that's irreplaceable. So technology is not going to replace that. And then, so I'm looking, forward to getting out of COVID for the number one reason is that we can gather together again, right? As the church. So having
without any drama, because some are gathering
without masks and washing my hands every 20 seconds. I've been flying a little bit, and it's pretty safe in my opinion. I'm a Delta guy, so they've got to zero down pretty well. But you literally are like disinfecting your hands every 20 feet in the airport, which great. Okay, I'm in. Mask, I'll wear them, no problem. When
you
it comes
to stylish mask too. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I got a new American flag one. I don't have it with me. It's an American flag mask. I love it. So we've got a little ways to go to then. So what can we do? What can we do to bridge the gap of communicating members? And remember, like, I think there's communication buckets. There's the preaching and teaching of the Word of God. So that's kind of one way in a respect. It's a teacher, preacher teaching the Bible. And teaching kind of some great life point out of the Bible. So that's a real one-way thing. When you think about other forms, of communication, whether it be discipleship, okay, that should be pretty kind of two-way. You want a lot of good feedback in a discipleship environment. So whether that's an online small group where someone's going through a Bible study, or you're going through a book, that's great, or the fellowship, which is, definitely this kind of rowdy, fun, backwards and forwards of, can you really replace, coming to someone's house and sharing a meal and, maybe watching a game or just hanging out or praying together? It's very hard for technology to replace that. But the key, I think, is if we can't do it how we want to do it, we have to do something, because I think here's a very real thing is happening in some respects, is that churches, for a lot of people, it's a part of the memory muscle of life. You get up Sunday morning, you have breakfast, the kids are running around, you're getting ready, you get in the car, hopefully you get there on time. It's very much part of the kind of the systematic nature of life if you're a Christian and committed to a local church. Yank that out for 6, 8, 12 months maybe. Is there going to be this kind of muscle memory that's still there to get back in church and get, established again in that whole thing? So whilst we can't do it in person, we've got to keep the line connected to people so they don't literally just, fall off the planet and forget about church. Are they going to forget about God? I don't think so. I have faith in people's faith. Okay. I think people, if you have a relationship with God, you're reading the Bible, there's a certain amount of self-discipline that is required to be a Christian, and to stay faithful to what the Bible teaches and to live your life accordingly and be fruitful and so on. But man, we've got to utilize the technology to keep those strings of attachment to people. Right. And because, you can argue about the lockdown and shut in and all of that, how it helps with the pandemic. But there's another argument that says when people are isolated, and we see it in some other statistics now that are becoming very, very apparent, what's happening in the lockdown. So right. the lack of fellowship is causing depression to go up. Very, very sadly, things like suicide, drug and alcohol abuse is skyrocketing because there's that dynamic that, being around people that are positive, uplifting, joyful, all the things that the church just does naturally is very good for the soul. And it has this overflowing effect into how you live your life. And so can technology bridge some of the gap? We have to. It has to.
I mean, right? Zoom meetings for the win, I guess.
Right? I mean, you got to just swallow hard and you go, this is such a lame
replacement,
right? For what church is, but we've got to do it. And if you do Zoom all day like we do at work, sometimes it's like the last thing you want to do on the weekends. Like, oh my gosh, I got to do another Zoom meeting, and it's so kind of not tactile and awesome like church is. But oh man, you've got to do it. So I would just encourage pastors to make sure you're scheduling regular. And then I would as a pastor, I used to love getting with the men's group or getting with a group of business guys in the church and doing breakfast tomorrow. Go and make some breakfast and get in a Zoom with a men's group or with a group of business people that, you can get in. Whatever you did before, you have to use technology to do at least 50% of what you were doing to make sure those connections stay strong, because this is going to pass and we're going to get back to how things were at some point. But until then, got to use the tech to keep the bridge.
Can we talk about using old school tech? Because I've heard this a few times, and I just thought it was super smart and kind of like, of course, but using the phone.
Right, to talk to people.
To talk to people, right? So, and look, we do, we do church management, so we kind of have the database side of things. It ties in a little bit, thinking about, pastors want to know, like, maybe when was somebody baptized, when's their anniversary, when's their birthday, when's graduation, when is some other special moment in a family's life, like all these different things, right? And tech can help keep pastors aware of all that stuff, because when you have hundreds of people, it's hard to remember all those things,
right?
But then tying that and just
pick up the phone.
And one of the churches that I talked to was like, yeah, we've got and engaging volunteers, I think, is another really interesting thing. And what they did is they had a volunteer group that loved to pick up the phone. And so their job was just to call, especially their older demographic members that might struggle with a Zoom or a whatever. Right. And some of it was helping them figure that out. But for like a longer, like they kind of made it into a full-time thing where they're just calling people, and they have this volunteer group that's calling people, every week just to encourage them. And I thought it was like, well, that's not a new tech, but it's still tech, and they're being thoughtful, engaging volunteers, and using tech to, love volunteers.
Look, in the age of fast communication and fast everything, the idea of getting an old-fashioned phone call on your birthday or on one of your kids' birthdays or on your anniversary, which, you should have all that data in one place as a church.
Right.
The thought of having a couple of hundred members, there's 200 opportunities to make a phone call, right? For a birthday. If there's marriages, there's maybe another 100 opportunities to call and congratulate on their wedding anniversary. There's touch points there that you can have that I think people would really appreciate in all the new school tech. Sometimes it's nice to go back to, just a plain old. I remember I used to love getting phone calls from my pastor, back in the day. and I still love making them. So 100%. I mean, phone calls are not as good as turning up in person, but sometimes it's that kind of sense of simplicity, and it's you and me. It's not me and 25 other people on a Zoom call. It's we're just going to have a 5 or 10 minute conversation. I think 1,000%. That's a great thing.
Yeah. Have you heard any other cool stories of people connecting during COVID?
Out here in California, we have a very restrictive environment. I won't get started, but there is the church I belong to has been doing these parking lot worship, events where literally you drive in, you stay in your car, they set up, someone is playing, and so it's like terrible, to be honest. it's like not even, and our church is pretty tech forward, but and there's a great worship team. They're very skilled. It's LA, right? Everyone's a musician, and it's just terrific. But I've appreciated little things like that, and I know people are kind of gathering, but not. It's relaxing a little bit now. People are out and about, and the restaurants have worked it. And we're very fortunate with the weather here. Is we can pretty much go out and eat all year round, and sit outside. But there's lots of kind of churches that are doing these outside impromptu gatherings where you're social distance, you can keep your mask on, you can obey the laws of the state, even though some people like to break them, and just get together, whether it's over the back fence or separated, but just sitting in a park, and being distanced and praying together, getting together. I think those things you just can't stop that happening. And you've got crazy jurisdictions that are literally writing tickets to people who are, even following the rules. They just, don't get me started on kind of, I have opinions on all that, but you can still get creative and get together and go for a walk in the park and bump into some people. And, the last time I checked, even in California, you can go for a walk in a local park and not be breaking the law. So
yeah, right. You just can't proactively organize groups over a certain amount, but
I think it's 10 here,
Well, yeah, I think it's 50 in parks in San Diego or something. Or maybe it's 25.
50?
Maybe
Wow.
25.
Yeah.
Maybe I heard of a church that did 2 25s and they just happened to be at the same park. And
there you go.
It turned into 50.
Look, I think there's some kind of, there's been a lot of pushback, in some places where, churches have felt unfairly targeted when it comes to shelter in place. And you've got other businesses that we can make a very easy argument for that are not really essential and don't add the kind of value to person's lives that the coming together of Christians does. And so, there's a gamut of opinions on all that and what you should be doing and standing up for. I mean, follow your own conscience, be smart, be wise about it. But I don't think you can stop, people wanting to gather together. And of course, do it well. And if you're sick, stay home. If you're outside, wear your mask and stay apart. And I think that's a good thing. I don't know if I just broke the law, or I'm endorsing law breaking. But
I want to know. There's just some good comments coming in. But if you're watching live right now, or even if you catch the recording, like, what are some of the creative ways you guys have engaged with church members? Like somebody wrote in. Where is it? I can't find it. There's so many of them. But they said, look, we're just driving to people's houses, parking, standing in the driveway. Someone's standing in the driveway, someone's standing on the porch, and just having a chat. And someone's talking about bringing by flowers and writing notes. So we'd love some of your other thoughts on how you're. I've seen churches doing like pizza giveaways in Costco parking lots and all kinds of, I think I was talking with somebody from Saddleback and they were doing like drive-through communion prayer services. So like, you just drive through, you take communion in your car, someone prays with you, and then you kind of move on.
Look, in many ways, this is just causing us to get creative. and to do things that are outside the box. And maybe when we look back at all this in, 4 or 5 years time, we look back and we see all these things that we started and did, that some of it, maybe we keep going. And so look, the church has been around for 2,000 years, and I hear doom and gloom, and this is going to be terrible for Christianity, and this is going to be bad. Look, the church has been through worse than this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think as people of faith that have a bigger, higher purpose and calling to our lives, and are on a mission to preach the gospel wherever we can, we're going to get through this. And the church hopefully adapts and comes through stronger, and learns from, having some rights, what was enforced on us because of a pandemic taken away. There's been times in history where the government literally forbid the church to meet. And we've got countries today where you are not allowed to gather, pandemic or no pandemic, as a church. So, the church is going to be strong no matter what. And Jesus said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So that's what we grip to. We adapt when we need to adapt. We utilize technology that comes along and helps us do the job, but we're not going to be deterred by, an 8-month pandemic when we know that Jesus is alive and he's really the only hope of the world. So we've got to stay out there and engaged.
Yeah. And folks are like Daryl's, like, the church has gone through a lot worse with less.
Exactly.
Right. Winnette, I hope I'm saying her name right, says it's making us destroy the boxes we are in and not worship gathering in buildings only.
There you go.
It's disrupting a bunch of stuff. And I think we all know that church isn't the building. Like, church is the people, and it's staying focused on the right things. And it's making us all get a bit creative through this crazy time. Someone, people are mentioning all kinds of things. Someone did bring up text and email and social media. And we launched our text messaging platform about 3 months ago. And, email's been a staple for a long time.
I'd say email's made a bit of a comeback.
Yeah.
In some respects. But look at, the text. So we're talking about keeping it tactile and real. But then that's not to say we're going to throw away this amazing technology that we can literally blast and send messages out in seconds around the world, and utilize that. I don't know if you've noticed, I certainly have in the last probably 12 months, the amount of communication I get from businesses, whether it be doctors, dentists, restaurant, this text kind of confirmation thing that's happening.
I got my dentist text confirmation this morning. So,
right. So,
and they called me too, just to make sure.
Yeah. They're good at follow-up, dentists.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good.
They're really good at follow-up.
Yeah. So, you think about what that means for the church. So I think one of the reasons we got into that side of things and we built that platform is because there's a definite trend in the, like you said, email's been around forever. So building an email platform was a no-brainer. Right. But there's having this ability to, because the percentages are very, very high. Do you ever see those people that have like 7,000 emails on their phone, like that unread, which I cannot stand? I literally have to clean my inbox out like every day.
I don't have 7,000. My wife's in that category. It's probably more like 25,000.
Right. So I cannot live like that. But anyway,
she doesn't get rid of anything. It's just always there. Like she's like,
well, no, I don't either. Everything sits on Google. I at least I mark it red, so I don't know that badge.
She doesn't mess around. That's a waste of time. Why would I mark it red? I'm just gonna let it.
My OCD can't even cope when I see the red badge. So, but anyway, to my point, that doesn't happen with text messages.
No.
So text messages are read instantly, and 98 whatever % of the time. And so that's why we kind of built that. So it integrates with everything else on the platform, but being able to communicate by text is.
I think we hit a hot spot. Nicole says she's got to clear hers out. Dennis says, I'm with you, Dean. I think other people just laughed because they probably are connecting maybe with how my wife does it and has 25,000 unread messages.
I think we need a support group for people.
There could be a whole conversation around.
There could be a whole support group for people who don't clear out their email box and just leave the red badges. Like the numbers are just, I get hundreds of emails a day, so it's like I just can't deal with it. So anyway,
yeah. No, the tech stuff is a big deal, though. I mean, what I think, pastors in this time, and even taking it out of, kind of what we're going through, and we're in the future and COVID's gone, or we have a vaccine and churches are back, like using text effectively to communicate with, one-on-one for sure. I think pastors and church leaders probably do that today to some extent, because they text people in their church, but using text to send a message to people, like record a quick video and send a message out to the church,
or fill out a form, right? You can embed links in a text message that can be really powerful. You can pop the link to the event in the text and have people click on the form, fill out the form, pay for the camp, pay for the whatever, all with the power in that text message. So look, I think the church should leverage that form of communication. There's no question. And
the email inbox support group is a thing. So I feel like that there could be a whole nother business.
Hey, we'll do it for free. It'll be part of my ministry to serve people who can't clear their inbox in their emails. I'll help them through it.
Yeah, but I think even pastors just sending messages to people that are more like connection bait, right? Like, we were talking with The Rock last week about, they do a fasting church-wide right at the beginning of every year, and Miles sends out a message every day to the church. And
I need that when I'm fasting, because I hate fasting, and I know I'm supposed to do it. And I think when I was in Bible college, like 30 years ago, we'd do a fast. Like it felt like every month, but it wasn't. It just felt like that. And I literally got caught eating pizza about four fasts in a row.
Oh my gosh.
While I was in Bible college. So I failed fasting back then.
So you're confessing that you failed Bible college because you couldn't fast and ate pizza.
I passed because I could preach. And I could get up and like talk about stuff, but I failed fasting. Pepperoni pizza down in DY Beach on the northern beaches of Sydney was the secret spot, which evidently wasn't a secret, because everyone would come down and see me, and they were praying, and I was literally eating pizza in the back of my Mini Minor.
Everybody, please say a prayer for Dean.
No, I'm beyond help on that thing.
So text and email, though, and social media, and I guess this is in the vein of connecting, like the pastor connecting with the church,
right,
in like the one-to-many format, and using text, using email. Social media, but like I feel like now's a moment where pastors are out of their comfort zone in that sense. Like most pastors aren't necessarily thinking that way. They prepare for Sunday, maybe they have a midweek service, those kind of things. But I feel like there's a big opportunity to use these, record a quick video on your phone to encourage church.
Do what we're doing, and it's so easy. Like we had 5 points and we're just riffing. Right. And hopefully it's helpful. And we're talking to our customers. And, so in a way, what a pastor can do and should be doing is utilizing all methods of communication available. I think the Apostle Paul, like writing letters and giving them to some guy to travel 3 months to deliver them to a church to be read out in public. Now we have Twitter, where I can literally like push something out in seconds and push it out to the whole church and beyond. So I think the sense of what we should be doing as communicators is embrace all platforms. And I think the church has gotten a lot better at this than we used to be. We used to be a bit slow in embracing, tech and these things. But so I think the church should own it, and we should, say, Twitter, for all what it is, in a negative, Twitter's been a gift from God to go and get a message out to people all at once. Facebook's a gift from God. Now, do we agree with everything these platforms do on different levels? Probably not. But you know what? I'm going to utilize it for the good of the gospel, and I'm going to own it, right? So I think that ship has sailed, where the church hangs back in some of these things. And then, like, what's next?
why do you think pastors, like, to me, grabbing your phone, recording a minute video once a week or even daily, heaven forbid, like where you're like saying something to your church, or you're sharing maybe your quiet time, or you're or even giving a shout out, hey, it's John's birthday today, wanted to say happy birthday, right? Like let's all encourage him together, like stuff like that, and then just sending it out via text, blasting it to your church.
Wouldn't you? But some are still afraid, and whether it's you're afraid of the tech, and or you're not, maybe you're in an older demographic and you're like a little bit unsure about the tech. You know what you should do? Go and find some millennial, some Gen Xer, and say, hey, hook me up, set me up, get me sorted, and within like 5 minutes, you'll have world-class communication platform built and designed for you. And I'm pretty tech forward for someone in their 50s. But, I'm still astounded. I look at my grandkids, and how they handle I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who handles a device. It's just frightening how good they are. And so I've made sure I'm not going to be the grandparent that is behind the tech curve with my grandchildren. I'm going to stay up front for as long as I can anyway.
That's like me with trying to stay physically stronger than my 3 boys. So I have to be able to take all 3 of them at once. For as long as humanly possible, which I'm sure
there will be a day when
there's only a few years away, I'm sure.
Sure, absolutely. No, I just think you got to embrace it, and let's not be those people that are slow. You think about what's happened in the last 10 years with social, right? 20 years looking what's happening in the internet. There's things coming down the line that you're just not sure. This virtual reality stuff, the all this artificial intelligence stuff that is, I don't know how it's all going to get embedded into how we utilize. I saw this video of a hologram, and it was an artist, literally looked like they were on stage, but it was a hologram. Okay. Right. So what happens when that technology becomes so simple and affordable and ubiquitous, where you could literally drop a hologram into China and preach? What is going to be possible here in the next 20 years?
Right.
So, and it's like the day I can spin up my hologram and go to anywhere in the world, I want to be on the hologram platform. Whoever does that, I want one. And I want to just drop into Tiananmen Square and start preaching Jesus.
I could be wrong, but I think I read about that, or I watched when they did it. And I think they brought Tupac back at Coachella.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
Yeah. It's like there's going to be a platform that does holograms. It's all about the computing power and the speed of the chips to be able to spin that stuff up to the point where, and then it gets so cheap. And then someone makes it free, and it's all in the cloud, and you just access it through your little hologram platform, and away I go. And the power of these little video cameras is just, look what's, you remember the 1 megapixel camera? I mean, I got a Sony 1 megapixel camera, and I'm like, this thing is amazing. And it's just like the best thing ever. And it's 16 frames a second. And it's like, I got 4K, in my hand. It's just stupid what's happened in the last, 15 years.
Yeah, totally. All right. I feel like we should wrap this up. We've talked a lot about using text and email, getting on social media, and there's some great comments, not knowing what to post or even how to do it. I mean,
be real, like on the message.
Connect. Yeah.
Just be yourself. Just be yourself. You don't have to just zip it all up. Just be yourself. Talk from your heart, like you would talk on a Sunday, or like you would talk, if you're in a small group at someone's house, like you would talk if you're having an intimate, lunch, talking someone, through an issue or problem. Just be yourself. And that's what people connect to. And it doesn't have to be overly produced. You don't have to act all different because you're on a screen. Just be yourself. That's what people connect to. And then you'll just relax. And after you've done it a couple of times, it just becomes second nature.
Right. Becomes part of it. Okay. Good
awesome
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, man, if there's been a bunch of comments, so if you guys have some more questions, we'll pop in the comments later and try to answer some more things. But appreciate you guys. Dean, thanks for coming on the show.
100%. Good to see y'all. See you soon, mate.
And we'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys.